Okay, so I guess it's been already 2 weeks, so we have to pick up somewhere. I almost felt like I'd want to skip and get more to the point, but I'm going to ask if you have your sheets. I'm going to move on in this mimer to specifically to before I lose the tachlis of the mimer, and then we can go back and do the theory. But there's a part of the tachlis that I want to read together with you. So if you have the whole mimer, if not, I'll just read it. It's the part which starts. It's called Perik Bet. Minyan li inyan. I don't know. I don't know what pages you have in front of you. Let me get the other book. 1 minute. See, with such a long break, I feel I'm losing, where I want to go with this, and it's going to be protracted, and I don't want to do that. I think the Iker's Lamaisa. Yeah, it's Perik Bet. In my book, it's page Kufav. I don't know. I don't know if Daniel put the whole thing up. Daniel, did you put everything up? I don't know. Okay, so it starts Umiyan Liyan. I will read it out loud and explain, so don't worry. Here it goes. Inyan li'inyan, yesh teva'er gam kein. One has to explain also hanagat lechol adam b'asakav, how people should be dealing with their businesses. Miusad al pasuk v'girchat rasha, based on the idea of what we learned before about cutting the hair. Let's remember what the cutting the hair was. I'll give a small kitzur. And then if you guys are up to it, we'll go back and learn that seriously again, more in an academic way. The idea of sarot is found, its instinct is found in the Zohar in Vayikra. Actually, it's quoted in Marsha in Bava Basra and Daf Zayin. He doesn't quote the Zohar, but he says it all there. And he's not making it up. I know where he's coming from. He says, at least that in metaphysical reality, as we point out multitudes of times, that the body of man is called Selim Elokim, the body of man. And body of man, as the Shalah explains, is nothing more than I would say, a flow chart describing the dynamics of God's interaction with creation. We have an eye, and we call it ayin because that is a mashal to the eye of God, whatever that means, whatever modem God uses to internalize external information through what we call an eye. That the mushal to that is the human eye and the optic nerve. So the reason it's called an ayin is not because the ayin of Adam and the Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the mushal. It's the opposite. It's called ayin because Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the nimshal, and the mushal is my eye, because I look at the human body as a mushal to the anhaga, to the dynamics of God interaction with the world, with creation. It's a very beautiful, noble way of seeing humanity. That what you're looking at is a flow chart, as the pasuk says in Tehillim, "Mibsari echze eluka." It's so to see how in Chabad Chasidus, therefore, there'll be very, very deep psychological mishalim to explain esoteric metaphysical ideas, because they really think that you look into the man and his emotions and all that, and that's the tool that you understand. So the satiric, because the body is actually a mushroom. It's a very important thing. I'm just pushing again for learning sciences, but forget it. Today, everyone's doing computers, economics, or liberal arts. No one's doing anymore. Okay, but what's coming on? Shloisha Dvar Ma'olim Oimed, Geld, Mammon, and Kesef. I mean, but what can I do? This is the world you poor people are in. I still live in the world of the Pirkei Avos over there. Anyway, but getting back to this, so I look at the body, look at the hair. What is hair in Adam Elyon? What is hair? Here is a marshal. What's the nimshal of it? The third Kaddish writes that the God also carries white hair. Okay, it's what Tikkun Zohar, which is really very interesting. What does it mean? It's called Mosros HaChachma. There are ideas which intelligence is something which can be expressed in the most beautiful, esoteric, deep way. And you can also see intelligent chachma even in the Sichas Chulin of Talmidei Chachamim.
Thank you so much for your beautiful wishes.
Sometimes you see the way that
Shoshana,
and you see how
very, very long way to the Weisel.
of his chachma. They're brought down in kalim of mishalim or mishalim. They're not overt. You don't explicitly say he's not talking philosophy. He's not talking.
India Rose.
Okay.
Daniel King.
So this is called Maishras HaChachma. So it really depends who you are. If you're the Maishras HaChachma of a Talmud Chacham, when I mean Talmud Chacham, I don't mean a guy which has, a sugya splitter. Talmud Chacham, as explained in Chazal, means a person which is a Bal Maila, a person which lives in his das. That's a Talmud Chacham. You can know Shas and Shulchan Aruch and be a Talmud Chacham Shein B'Ideya, and the Gemara says Nevela Toiva Himenu. I don't even want to translate that. It's not pleasant. But we mean a Talmud Chacham is supposed to be a Talmud Chacham, a person which is Kulay Moichin and Seichel, as the Rambam says, his Sichas Chulin is Avas HaChachma. He doesn't have to talk about Bab Kama, Bab Metzia. He can talk about Aristotle's ethics. He can talk about, I don't know what, the molecular structure of crystals. He lives in Avas HaChachma. He lives in the world of thought. That's called the Talmud Chacham. So the Maishras HaChachma of the Talmud Chacham is the Sichas Chulin of Talmidei Chachamim. You know what I mean? Even the Sikh, how it said and what it said, you'll learn. When you live with these people, you can understand this. I grew up living with my Rebbe. I remember whenever I was sick, I slept in his house, took vacations with him. You know what I mean? So you got to see the man on the beach, so to speak. You saw him 24 hours. So there are some people that the closer you get to them, the smaller they are. Well, he was a person that the closer you got to him, the bigger he was. The more you saw, wow, there's so much more which I don't have yet. There are people like that, rare, but there really are people of that caliber, and it's good to know that there are, or there was at least, as I can attest to, and you could see that the Sichas Chulin, the Anhaga, just the way he even talks to his wife or his grandchildren, you can see everything makes sense. It's an Ish Chacham, man. That's called Moishvei Chachma. So you understand that's the Moishvei Chachma of something which is positive. Then you also have the negative. What do you say about the wisdom of an idiot? So the Moshe Chachma will be, he'll tell you, I don't know what, Archie Bunker jokes or things like that, or say, things like that. So it depends what the Chachma is to understand what the Moshe Chachma is. One has to understand that. God, so to speak, has hair. That means he expresses Chachma in the lowest level, allowing people of lowest levels of consciousness to somehow get into his chachma. That's the idea of God having hair. That's the mashal. We talk about some places there's kedusha of hair by the Nazir, because the Nazir is supposed to be a person, as you read Ramban and Rabbeinu Chaya, that he has elevated himself to walk away from the mundane and tries his best to live in transcendency. To the extent, the reason that a Nazir cannot be Tameh. Now, why can't he be Tameh? So the Seid Yesharim, which is a great Hasidic master, the Radziner Rebbe, was a guy in Olam. I mean, can I tell you about him? The man was unbelievable genius. He writes in one of his books, he says, you know what Tumah is? Tumah is the ultimate finite. What's the Aviyah voice of Tumah? What's if you look into
Misa.
you go
Misa.
through a mace. The mace is the Aviyah voice of Tumah. Everything goes from there. It's some kind of life or life property which had capability of growth and stopped. Terminus. Tumah is the idea the game's over. Game's over. You did your deed. You exited. That's what tumah is. That's the tumah of a mace. It's nothing bad. The fact that man all of a sudden is not, life doesn't go further and there's no more growth, that is tumah. That is also the tumas yoytze migufay. They go from the body of male or female. That means they had potential of life and growth, and it didn't happen. Okay, it wasn't fertilized the egg, and thus the whole layer on the womb deteriorates, and there's your menstruation blood. There you have that. Or so on and so forth, or a male which lets out the seed. What is that? That's the gift of life, which didn't happen. All this is life that didn't happen. That's what this is. Life did not grow. Terminus. He says that's the idea of tumah. Tumah is when you realize, hey, it's really finite. At least in this world, it's over. Thank God we have a neshama, which is not tameh, and that goes further. But you know what I mean? In this world, it has a beginning, it has an end, and it has a middle. He says that's the reason why a kohen, anybody who's a kohen here should know this, is not supposed to engage physically tumas mace. Doesn't go to funerals. If there's a deceased person in the building, he's out. You know what I mean? What's the idea? So he says, you know what a kohen is? Sometimes we think he's just a butcher in the celestial butcher shop. So sometimes you think about the Beis Hamikdash, but the katzev. You know what I mean? No. The kohen is the person which teaches the person how to do vidur. He teaches him how to do tshuva. That's what the kohen is really supposed to be doing. The first thing the kohen has to be is to teach. And what's the ultimate shiur that he has to give in the Beis Hamikdash to the balei chatois v'hashamas? Supposed to be soymech b'chol koichai. You're supposed to put all yourself into that avodas hakarbanis. Now, how am I going to do that? I never did before in my life. How am I supposed to say vidui and mean it? So he's going to teach it to you. These are very special teachers. Okay, so what he's teaching to a person that's never over. Until the fat lady sings, it continues. It's never over. Just because you fell on your face 100 times doesn't mean it's over. No. There's always, you can walk out of it. You can do good. That's what he's teaching him. So to really do that in a convincing way, he has to be a person which is not affected in a direct way by the pollution of finite experience. Therefore, he shouldn't be engaging death because he knows about it. I know about a lot of things. We all know about a lot of things. We don't live by that. It doesn't affect us, but it's somewhere in the back of our heads. I still remember when first time I was in Ovo, all of a sudden it hit me, hey, we don't live forever. I went and bought life insurance. I was a young guy, freshly married. All of a sudden, my daddy, I said, well, it can happen. So first thing you do is you buy life insurance. You worry about your wife and your what I have there, 2 little kids at the time. You know what I mean? That's the same thing, because didn't I know about death? I learned Tyrus before, believe me. Okay, Baruch Hashem, I knew my Tyrus. I knew about mace. I know Tama mace. I know a lot about Tama mace, but I didn't feel the mace in my face. Okay. It's when mentality hits you that you suddenly, that's when it has a psychological effect. When it's not just intellectual information, but it's cerebral intelligence, it becomes emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence affects how you feel, think, and how you talk, and how you teach. So what we're trying to do is further the priest from the emotional intelligence of death. He can know about it, but he shouldn't engage in it. He shouldn't experience it as much. He has to run away from it. Why? Because he has to teach people that it's never over. And death means it's over. He has to teach people that at least spiritually it is never over. Okay, the fat lady never sings. It's never over. This convention goes forever. You can always change it, and that's an unbelievable thing. That's a beautiful, it's a very special idea. Whoever's a kohen, if not, find yourself a kohen and teach it to them that that's what they have to understand. It's never over. You can chuvata. So this is the idea of the Nazir. The Nazir is living up there. You understand? he can't be Mitama because he's living in that world of ideas. Ad kedei kach that the Ramban says that, he has a korban when he has to cut that hair. So his hair is holy because it comes from a lot of thinking, and that thinking and that chachma is expressed in everything he does. His whole experience, he's living chachma. So he's got a lot of hair. And that hair is holy. The moisturize of his chachma moved from theoretical ideas, just pure metaphysics, into something which he can touch and feel and experiences, and really affects his thinking and his feeling. So that hair is that's hair, that's hair to dance with. But then obviously when you feel that enough is enough, okay, I spent X amount of years in Kollel, now I got to go back to the real world. So interesting. So there's a machlekes from Rabbeinu Bechaya and Ramban. He's got to cut his hair off. Why? Because you know what? When you live up in the world of academia, so then at that point of time, your moisture, chachma, will be beautiful. There'll be smaller expressions of that great world of wisdom. When you walk away from the world of wisdom, and you live more of an external life, then you know what? Then the emotions of that chachma are not always the nicest and the best. I told you, the emotions of a chachma, of a person whose chachma is very low and shallow, is funny jokes and or not wise things. Sichas chulin shel amei haaretz, so to speak. Not exactly something we should be learning from. Okay, the anhaga, how people act when they don't live in their minds. Sometimes you see people in shul how they talk to their children. You shiver. Okay, you don't understand. If this maybe you should learn a little bit about how to be a mensch. Maybe before he gets married, you should learn how to be a mensch. Then maybe he'll be a good father. So this is it's adirabah. The cyrus of an Amoris should be cut short. It's very good. Today's hairstyle that everything is short hair. When in my days in the 60s and the 70s, we all had long hair, okay? Because we were busting around with LSD. We were broadening out our minds. So obviously there was Moshe Chachma. There was even a Broadway show called Hair, if anybody knows about it. It was the age of Aquarius. What can I tell you? It was really unbelievable. But I think it's tight, and they walk around like Marines, There's this why? Because that it's most it's not the ballet type, not ballet seichel. So you have to cut the hair. It's very good. I like the hairstyles. That's the way it should be. Okay, I'm just looking at this. You laugh, but I actually see this mimer when I see people coming out of a barber shop. That's probably the difference. Okay, this is what I see when I see the hairstyle. It makes sense. This hair good. This one makes sense. They shouldn't have long hair. Okay, if they'll go back to the world of thought, they should have long hair. This is not me. I'm finished. You can make Kiddush Levana on my hair, but everyone, you guys still have hair. Some of you. Hi, Charlie. Anyway, so this is the idea of the chachma. See, there's pluses and there's minuses. There's hair which has to be cut. The Yifas Toya. What's the Yifas Toya? So we explained in the previous session, the Yifas Toya is a mashal to the Nefesh Elokis, to the beautiful personality of an inner personality of Jew, which is multicolored. If you recall, we discussed the idea that we have so much potential. We're multicolored people, all of us, thank God. We are different, unless you're really boring. I mean, we're multicolored, multidisciplined. We have a lot of colors in us. Now you can be a beautiful rainbow. You can end up being a kaleidoscope, which means you don't know who you are and what you're looking for. Tell you a nice story. I think about this a lot. There was a certain person. I can tell who it is. I don't forget it without the name. Certain person, which was a public personality, a rabbi in a shul, someplace X. And he felt that he wanted, the rabbit and all that. Maybe he should go into something else, like psychology or things like that. Didn't know to ask because he was afraid to ask his Rosh Yeshivas because he knew what answer they would give him. And he didn't go to KPY. Let's put it blind. He went to wherever he went. He knew exactly what the answer was going to be, and he wanted something else. So he figures I'll call Lubavitcher Rebbe because he doesn't know him. at all. He doesn't know a thing about him. So then what? He'll just hear a wise man's approach. He calls the secretary that was Rabbi Chodakov and he says, listen, the Rebbe's booked for the next 6 months. Listen, do me a favor. I really need to know this. So there's 1 minute. He calls the Rebbe on the internal line. And he says, there's a person here, didn't say his name, says he's from City X, and his name is Y, and he's got this dilemma. So the Rebbe says, well, if he's from City X, he should ask Rabbi Y, who lives in that city, and he'll be able to give him good advice. Now, this is Y talking on the phone, okay? So he's flustered, so he tells the secretary, hey, I am Y. So Rabbi Chanukah calls back the Rebbe, says, listen, this is Y talking. So the Rebbe answers, no, so maybe Y should look and talk to himself and give himself advice. And he did. He sat down and thought about it, gave himself advice, and he got his doctorate. He was a rabbi, but he was also a great psychologist. Okay? There you have it. I learned from this, you have to sometimes be able to talk to yourself. You're a multicolored person. People ask me, who do I ask? Well, except for ask my wife. But except for your wife, but the Gemara says, in Vito, you're supposed to ask your wife. Ask yourself. And if you can't ask yourself, man, then you should have been selling shoes a long time ago. Okay? So that's the, I remember that story of the Rebbe hit me very strongly. Yes, people should be able to look in themselves and find themselves. Who are you? So this Nazir, okay, he had a hard time. He's up in Utopia. He doesn't find himself there. Okay, that's nice. So he decides to leave Utopia and come back to the regular world, of you and me. So the Ramban says the fact that he didn't persevere and was willing to come down off the Olympus, that demands from him a chatas and an oila. He's got to bring karbanis for kapara for the fact that he's willing to leave the Olympus. Okay, an approach. I'm not knocking it. Rabbeinu B'chai says the opposite. Thank God for him. And he says, no. Of course, he can't stay up there on 20. I was like, sorry, God didn't make the world for angels. He made the world for regular people. Every time you go to a retreat, like the Jews had 40 years of kollel in the midbar. I don't know. I had 5.5 years of kollel. Okay, then I went to the trenches. You know what I mean? I can understand. Each of us we have our gap years, whatever we have, and we have to. As the Kotzker said, Malachim and Srafim's got plenty up there. He needs people down here. Okay. So Rabbeinu B'chai says, yeah, the Nazir obviously can't live on the Olympus. He's going to come down. But in order to take the Olympus with him, he has to find peace within himself. So he has to have a shalomim. A shalomim is finding internal peace. He's able to internalize things. He should be able to not walk, I'm turning my back to this, and no, I'm going to do that. No, he has to find harmony in his way of coming down. Now, those are the karbanos of the Nazir. Karbanos of the Nazir, right? You're going to cut your hair. Because you're going down there, Moshe is a chachma, relax, be careful, okay? But you're going to learn how to go down gradually and in a wise way. You don't jump down, you do it. Remember once talking to Richard Joel, the ex-president of IU, so I says, listen, we got a few issues here on campus. He says, Rabbi, that's the real world. He says, don't you understand, my poor kids, they need a halfway house. Come on, make it easier for them. Okay, when they get to a real school, not yours, when they go to grad school, then they're going to have to hit the real world. Sorry, okay? But try to make a halfway house. I remember that conversation we had. He was a good man. So this is the idea of Cyrus and of Giluach Cyrus, of Moshe Chachma, of growing Cyrus, and sometimes Cyrus which will be covered. Okay, I'm not going into the idea of the Moshe Chachma of the Isha in a relationship with her husband. They has to be covered because that's intimate. That's between you and me. There's things we don't, my intelligent conversations, I can talk to the world. But those conversations that the Gemara says, Sicha has been Ishta Ishta at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, there's a special Gemara discussing that. that should be covered. That's not negated to everybody else. It's not shaykh to everybody else. You don't throw yourself in Rishus HaRabbi. There's a certain part of who you are. Hopefully, we all know that we keep into our Rishus HaYachid. We don't pour ourselves in the street. I would hope that most of you is a Rishus HaYachid. Whatever is there outside is a little percentage of the great person that you are. But that's what we should be. So this is the idea of Kisi Roisha Isha, is, her Maestros HaChachma, not talking about her philosophy degree, not talking about the fact that she's an unbelievable doctor, lawyer, chemist, I don't know what. No, that should be Galu. But the Maestros HaChachma, those are the small things which are Shaykh, Beina, Lebeina, that part of the Chachma, that you should. So bleiben in Stub, let it stay at home, so to speak. This is the idea behind all these ideas of Cyrus. In light of this, now let's read over here. Now, what does it mean when it says about Moshe's Chachma, talking about you have a lot of Chachma, but you take the Moshe's Chachma and you dwell on it and you start living in your Moshe's. For example, you give an example, people that spend all their intelligence in business, in food, clothing, and shelter. And this is what he's going to talk about now. People not thinking about their hair, so to speak, not about their chachma, but about the Maisreis chachma, which is, now you can take tremendous intelligence and express it in business. Yes, you can be a very intelligent person of major morals and ethics, and you can be, your whole business will be one experience of Tikkun Amidus and of Shulchan Aruch. The much chachma you have in your head, so much, everything you do in Uvn the Chayil becomes nothing more than an external workshop of all your values. Then it's tremendous. That Moshe's Chachma is great. That's exactly what God wants. Take your whole Beis HaMedrash, and can you please see it in Ma'asim B'chol Yom? I remember my Rebbe Ribs with his little brother when he was a bacher. So for 6 months he went to Europe. He lived in Chevron Yeshiva. So he went to Europe. He went to visit the Rogachover. It was the Rav in Dvinsk, a very, very big Talmid Chacham. The Rogachover never took a haircut. Interesting. This is the guy that never took a haircut. He really looked like wild. Did you ever see a picture of the man? Like big hair. Did the haircut. Someone told me that the reason is because they didn't want to think, couldn't stop thinking and learning, and so to speak, and take his yarmulke off. I don't think he would have stopped thinking and learning with his yarmulke off anyway. So I don't believe the story. Okay, because I know that they say that he was learning on Tisha B'Av. They asked him, "How can you do that?" So this will be the sin I'll burn for. So somehow I don't believe that story. Okay, why did the haircut? I don't know. But Itake had a lot of Moshe's Chachma. If you read his book, he's like beyond. Okay, this is an unbelievable person. So he goes into him, says, "Where are you from?" She says, "I'm from Chevron." No, how many halachas you know about Chevron? Woo! Then they spent the next 25 minutes discussing all of Bavli, Yerushalmi, Tosefta, etc., all the halachas of Chevron. Okay, then we'll sit down at the table. He says, "No, what is this table?" He didn't say it's a table. It's a Shusayachit, it's a Carmelist. What's the din as far as Kalim is concerned? What's the Tubas Nagoyim is concerned? And he said, my Rebbe told me that this man was not unbelievable. Like everything he experienced was Kol Kula. A table is X amount of halachas, X amount of values, A nose, chaytim. So there's how much halachas there are in chaytim on the nose. That's how we saw things. That his Moshe's Chachma were like, woo, that was an unbelievable thing. The Chachma is to be able, we obviously no one's asking anybody to be like that. You'd have to be like a super scholar, okay, a real Athenian Talmudist. But that's the approach. That's what we hope for. We want to see our values, at least, and that I think all have in what we do. Okay, and there's an acid test there. So if you do something wrong, I just misstepped my values. Good thing to know. Okay, so this is what he said. Let's read it. Based on the pasuk that you You're megalech, the Rosh of the Yifas story that we discussed. Hainu beruchnius gam kein giluach hasarot anitzchim giluach. Sometimes you have to shave hair, which needs shaving. Ki hey mosros Hashem em yokim achitzainim, because they're not overt chachma. They're just maestros of chachma. So you know what? People can take that and misconstrue it and become something which is really not pure. For example, you'll find so many people taking hanhagos, or they have books today of vertalach of Talmidei Chachamim, or or hanhagos of Talmidei Chachamim, and people become all hooked up in that. They won't learn a world. They won't really learn chachma. They'll be in love with biographies. And I have a picture of the Rebbe, a picture of this, a picture of that. All these chitzonias is all moistures, which is a unique of the chitzonim. What does chitzonim mean? Chitzonim means shallowness, not living something meaningful. That's what chitzonim are. They're outside of what is real. Okay, michutz la'emet. Okay, yinika lachitzonim. It means that yes, this is typical. When it comes to a serious discussion in physics, I'm sorry, if you're not in the game, you're not part of the conversation. Oh, but the biography of Albert Einstein, that every little boy knows. And then they'll tell you stories. Did Einstein do this? Did Einstein do that? Did he blow his nose before he got to Princeton? I don't know. This everybody's part of. That everyone's, but you notice how it is? So everyone's, I know Einstein, Einstein. Little baby, okay, you know what I mean? Okay. Not even what the word relativity means, okay, let alone Einstein, it's very partial. The Moshes of Chachma as a Yanika for Chitzonim, that's where the shallowness connects, and it can take it to a bad place. You see, many people love being a Mishamish. Shimush Talmidei Chachamim. They think it's walking around and holding his coat. No. If you're learned by the person the whole time, and you also want to learn what he does when he walks in the street, you'll see something. But if you won't see and understand his chachma, you will never see anything in his Moshes chachma. For goodness sakes, you take a picture, right? I was the Rav's shiur assistant or things like that. I know what that is. Goodness sakes, you know what I mean? You can see in different people, for example, you talked about the Ravs, Talmidim of the Rav. They're Talmidim of the Rav, but you saw that they learned. Sometimes I'm a copy spies from Rav Shechter. Like he has all these books about the anhagas of the Rav, even small things. He'll tell you, he'll understand the halachas that came out of it. It's beautiful to see. He has these books where he explains the halachic and value thinking in just habits of what the man did. That is a person which knew the chachma, so he chapped the Moshes of chachma. What about the other people that didn't do that? Also, they'll tell you the stories, and they'll be into the stories, and the Rav said, and we have books about what the Rav said, right? Not from people that's kulei Moshes of chachma, which can have a yanika in pure shallowness. I don't want to pinpoint, but I think these things we all know. We all live in the same universe. Nebuch. This is the way it is. It's like the difference between a Talmud and a Gabbai, a Shamish. That's the difference. It's a tremendous difference. So this is what he says. He says, we know that sometimes you have to Maestros Hashemim Yonkim Achitzonim. V'hainu. What's the example by us? Mashemarba Adam Matrid Datov Libo. He really thinks a lot and feels a lot, and he's very emotionally involved by Sakab businesses. B'masau matan, in his negotiations, etc. He puts his whole self in it. Does he really need all that emotional involvement? Here's the question. If you're a man living with values, you understand that you have given a certain amount of gifts in life. And one of those gifts is your capability, the fact that you're not Neanderthal, and your skull, your brain has grown 3 times the size of our cousin, the Neanderthal. And we are Homo sapiens, okay? You can go see the skulls and see how the great designer decided that he's in dialogue only with the people with this size of a brain, not the size of that, of a softball. He doesn't talk to them, okay? Good, he made them, But that is not who he's talking to. The man of the Bible is the man of the Homo sapien. Couldn't care less what they find in whatever cave. That he didn't talk, God doesn't talk to them, he's not in dialogue with them. So it's not part of the game, not part of the story. Okay? So God created Homo sapien. Now, what did he create Homo sapien for? Because Homo sapien brain is not just functional, he's not just a forager, not just that he actually is capable of transcendent and abstract thought. And that part of the brain, how much of us use that part of the brain? And you ask yourself the question, how many of us and how much of us, qualitatively and quantitatively, use that part of the brain, which is actually the reason why the great designer equals the great evolver created this process of which we are Homo sapiens. How do you justify being a Homo sapien without using that which makes you a Homo sapien? You could have been a Neanderthal. Taking for granted that we believe in Bria, therefore an intelligent design, means God had created a Neanderthal, and God afterwards let it evolve to, or however it was done, I don't know. And then there is a Homo sapien. Well, if that's the case, God wants to dialogue with the man who is capable of X, not Y. How much of our brain do we use it all, and what do we use it for? And here's the question on the table. To what extent are we justifying our existence? And why won't we go back to, we should want to be the grandchildren of Mr. Neanderthal. Go a little hunchback, nicht gefährlich, but at least your brain will fit to what you want to do anyway. Why would you use all? So I understand. Obviously, it means to say, to justify our existence, we must think or use the gift of transcendent abstract thought for something productive. Productive for the will of God, but whatever it be, first of all, productive within our value system. Take your value system, decide what is productive, and then say, okay, how do I use that gift that I have for that? And what does man do? First of all, he hardly uses it. Hardly uses that. And if he does use that, it's a little bit to color to make himself feel good. But it's not really what he spends most of his day with. The idea of food, clothing, and shelter does not demand transcendent or abstract thought. It can only be so if he has a value system in which the food, clothing, and shelter is a means towards an end. And he lives with the consciousness of that end, which somehow fits with his Homo sapien value system, okay, equals abstract thought. And this he's doing to further that, as the Gemara says, you can't learn Torah unless you have malacha. And if malacha takes I don't know what, 15 years for a dissertation, let it be. And if you only be able to learn an hour a day, let it be. So that's the way it is. But the idea is it's all a means to be able to daven like a mensch, learn like a mensch. I don't care if you can only have 10 minutes a day, but that's the focal point of your existence. And if that would be true, so obviously you would economize in time and try your best to use those gifts for something meaningful and valuable. So if you tell me, look, I'm going to do this business thing, I'm going to put all stuff in it because this will allow me a lifestyle, which then I can be to live a man of values and thought. So then it's a means towards an end. Do you understand? Or it will allow me the leisure of spending time to learn more. Wow, that's like, well, today's modern world, that isn't simple. Because business is not just going to the market, there's a lot to do. But the idea of translating this into a value system of a means towards an end and living consciously with the end in front of you, that is taking those gifts and justifying them. So this is what he says. He says, you really need it. Do you ever ask why you're doing it or how much you need? Does anybody ever ask how much he needs? Or what is my goal? Do we ask that? We don't ask that. No, come on. I didn't ask that. I'm older now, so I can look back and say, hey, stop. You know what I mean? And but really, it isn't that simple. So here he comes and says, let me explain. He says, the pasuk says, And God, your Lord, will bless you in all your endeavors. That's the pasuk in Devar. One has to try to comprehend. Why did God, if God wants to bless me, why do I have to do anything? God only blesses me if I do, right? God helps those who help themselves. You can't wait for manna from heaven. That's the way it is. So yes, why is it so? Why do business? You understand the only reason business works is because God blesses you. Let's say you understand that. You believe that you're doing hishtadlus and the Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving. So why is it that God will only give if you do hishtadlus? If it's just a bracha from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, why don't you sit down? I don't know, say Tillim all day. As he says before, he says more, but they already said what you're going to make on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So you got it gone, man. What do you need more for? Why do you have to do business? He said. If God said this boy, because of whatever he did in life this past year, is going to get X amount of income this coming year. Then one would ask if that's the case, if you believe in this. It's really a question, I don't want to hit, but one should really think, do you really believe in this? That you really believe in this? I'll tell you a story of a friend of mine. He was an heir to a major toy store chain in America. Not Toys R Us, something else. Okay. And his name's Joe. Okay, we're friends. Okay, this is a guy which does shas every year. Okay, it's just want you to know. Okay. So he had this idea of an investment. He knows what he's doing, but it was one of these offshore things for a tax shelter. So I told him, I think you should ask Rav Shlomo Zalman what he thinks about tax shelters. Because I knew Rav Shlomo Zalman was not going to talk halacha, he'll talk morals and ethics. I knew this was an unbelievably clean person. No tax shelter. Every good Jew has a tax shelter. Come on, that's what you have accountants for. To how not to pay taxes. What do you think? What do you need an accountant for? To pay taxes, I don't need the accountant. I know good myself. Okay. There it says, so he went to Rav Shlomo Zalman, and Rav Shlomo Zalman asked him, do you mamish believe that Mezonah Ksuvos Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah? He says, of course. So you really think God needs you to cheat in taxes to give you what he wants? So why would you do it? I was blown away by the answer. This is the guy that really believed this stuff. He mamish believed Mezonah Ksuvos Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. So it's God giving you. Elamai, you have to make the shtadlus. You think he needs your shtadlus to be, one of these Galiciana Dre cups in order to give you what he wants? I think that God will give you what he wants, what you're supposed to get, even if you're an Adam Yosha. So would you believe it? He undermined the whole business world of Brooklyn. Let me tell you. You know what I mean? Like unbelievable what the man said. But it's the truth. But it's a stark truth, which I don't know if we can live up to it, but it's something we have to have in our minds. We at least have to wish, to will, to want, to aspire to that. That should be our value system. Does God need your playing with the law in order to give you what God decided to give you this year? Is that part of his shtadlus? He didn't say it's usher. No, it's mutter. You know what I mean? But it just didn't sound yashar to him. He was a man of very high moral standards. You didn't tell him what to do. Just think of it. Do you think he needs it? Maybe you think he does. Okay, you can do it. You know what I mean? But I think the dilemma was there, and that was one of the most beautiful psakim I ever heard of Shlomo Zalman. That's a psak. It's a psak, Moshe Tzarichi, a psak. The psak which takes you for your life. So this is what he says. He asks, everybody has Mezonah Ksuvos Rosh Hashanah. Yela parnasa. Sharei, Mashik Katsav Hashem Barach Vadayi Kayem. If God said he's going to give to you, he's going to get you by hook or by crook. So why don't you just sit on your backside on the beach in Florida and relax? Okay. Why do you have to go to work? Why do you have to do anything? Okay. So he says, God will never back down from what he said he's going to do. And goodness sakes, if you're not going to get more than what God wants to give you, so why are you doing so much work? Whatever you need a shtadlis to do the minimum. You're going to get it anyway. This is his question. Why are you so involved emotionally in your business? This is a very serious question. It's a question to he who actually wants to try or wish to live with the idea that Mazonas Sha'odam Ksuvas Leimi Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. It's I really want people to think about this because this is not just a theory. This is really life, okay? To what extent do we really believe in this? And I want to say something because we learned it in the previous mimer. Our problem is we believe it, but we haven't internalized it and we don't know it. And then saying believing because it's like a halo above our head, it's like theoretical. It's not something which has entered into our emotional intelligence. We don't see it as a vivid, real truth. That's why we can believe it and not live by it. That's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. It's emunah, not yediyah. But we'd actually internalize this value. There were people that we have to be people living in values. It's not like this is a hard call, but this is what we aspire to. That when you talk about religious growth, that's where it all is. That's where it all is. Remember that if you ever say the Ratzon before putting on tefillin, written by the Chida, it's a very beautiful thing to see. He describes, where's the neshama? So people say your neshama is in your heart. No. Haneshama shebemochi. Tanya writes that too. The ultimate place of where your soul really can present itself is in intelligence. We have to try to build a priority list, a value system, and based on our intelligence, and then try somehow to wish the will to want to aspire to live by it, and try to know if Mizaynas Shalom Ksuvas Lei. So why am I working? And the answer is yes, you do have to go to work. Now the question is why. I'm not trying to say you don't have to go to work. No. You won't. No work, no income. But why? I have a theological dilemma. V'yuvan, this can be understood. Begdim to predicate lavim ashamru Chazal. Chazal teaches the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Adam nidan b'chol yom. I don't know if you know it, but every day there's a Rosh Hashanah. People aren't aware of it. Every day there's a Rosh Hashanah. Every Rosh Chodesh, it's a Yom Adin. People should be aware of this. There's Rosh Hashanah, the big one. And then we have the daily and we have the monthly. Okay, these are all Rosh Hashanahs. Yom Din. Adam Nidin B'chol Yom. And he asked the question, if he already has, let's talk about the din of Mizonos, of having income. Well, didn't they decide that between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? So why do I get a daily assessment what I'm going to make? What are you asking? Wasn't that all decided beforehand on Rosh Hashanah? Didn't decide whether you be about health, wealth, and your pursuit of happiness. Didn't they decide that then? So what are you asking for now? It's a done deal, brother. Are you doing tshuva to get a different decree? That's not what it says over there. Then you should focus on Hashivenu. You know what I mean? On Slachlanu. Why are you asking Baruch Aleinu? I need Baruch Aleinu is for business. I need got a good deal this week. I need help. I need Siyata D'Shmaya or Rifa'enu. I need help. Hey, your health has been decided on between Aseres and Tshuva, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. So why do we do anything? What are you asking for? What exactly is this? Obviously, you must come to a conclusion that whatever happened on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is X, but somehow when it comes into realization, it needs another filter called Y. And let me explain this about Peh, because we're getting closer to time, and I don't want to leave it hanging, and we will see this inside. You know what it is? When God says he's going to give you mazonos, what does he take money out of his celestial basket and put it down the pipes? What do you think it means? Is there money up there in heaven? Anybody who learns Ramban knows Ramban, especially Chasidut, Kabbalah, Chasidus, and just learning Midrashim, knows what happens, as I said multiple times, that everything in this world, as I said before, is a mashal to a nimshal. It's like, what's the truth of parnasa? Is a certain relationship with God expressed in rachvus halev. You're living a comfortable situation. Okay. Now, externally in this world, I need food, clothing, and shelter equals the capability of I need a pair of tefillin. I need to be able to afford buying a pair of tefillin. So get yourself a job because you have to put on tefillin. You know what I mean? You have to be able to pay for things like that in this world. That makes sense. Okay, that's very good. So what happens up there? God basically has a certain, he says, you and me are going to have a certain type of relationship. And that relationship will express itself also in you having income. What happens if you don't work? Well, God can't give you if you didn't give the tools of translating that relationship into money. So that will happen is that relationship will be deeper at other levels of your existence, but it will not translate into money. It's like, you know what I mean? You love your wives. Okay, that can express itself in a lot of different things. Let's be honest. It's very nice to know what's in your heart, but that expresses itself in so many different things. Okay, I'm thinking because I just had my anniversary. Okay, expressive in multiple tsuros without going into it. Okay. Well, if you didn't learn how to express yourself, so that will not come out in speech, for example. So all you do is buy flowers or whatever you're going to do. You have to be able to express yourself in different ways. And if not, it just stays in your heart. So yes, God has a relationship with you. And because of that relationship, he wants you to have a certain type of, be able to serve him in a certain way. And wants that capability of making you should have, doesn't have chayit tzar. Now, if you work for parnasa, you will get that will be translated also into income. It won't work, so it'll be somewhere else. It'll stay in olam atzilus and olam apriya. It'll be at different levels of your soul. It'll be enhanced. Where there you don't need the money. It'll be ribui chachma. The Gra writes, so he says what this means. It all starts with God giving chachma to the malachim and srafim. That's called the behemoths and the chayis b'shulamala. Then the God gives rain, which equals chachma, and therefore there's food for the chayis hakodesh. This translates up in this world in literally raindrops, which gives food for my animals. But it starts with the shefa of chachma, which is mezin chayis hakodesh. That translates in this world in rain for your and fodder for your animals. So next time you see rain in Eretz Yisrael, you understand. The Gemara says, "Gadol yom kshamim ki yom shenitna b'Torah." Yes, when there's rain, it means God is mashpiach chachma. In mashpiach chachma to the malachim, strafim, and this goes through the tubes and should be bringing chachma or capability of chachma, pezaynus for chachma to the world. But if people didn't learn or people didn't wisen up, it's not going to get it. So that will translate itself wherever it will translate itself. It's energy which can translate itself at multiple levels of who you are. at different levels of consciousness, it won't translate practically into money. So you may have a great Mazonos Ksuvos at Rosh Hashanah, but you need the Ishtadlus in order to make sure that you give the kalim, which will allow that to translate practically into this energy, or this relationship with God will translate into dollars and cents. It all makes sense if you understand that dollars and cents are nothing more than an external expression of that relationship which God wanted to have with you. You don't just say, oh, I like roses. What about the idea that you love your wife and that's why you give her roses? Believe me, I know they love diamonds. Tell me about it. No. They love you loving them enough to give them diamonds. Believe me. Okay? Let's be honest. Okay? It's not that you don't need 22 roses on Valentine's Day. One with a hell of a lot of love will do. Okay? You do something, but sometimes these guys go, I see in Manhattan, in February, it's a lot of money. Okay, they're pretty expensive, those roses. Not in LA, Alan, in New York. Let me tell you. Okay? I can see up in Manhattan. Yeah, are you kidding? I remember the court. Crazy. Okay, yeah. Zleibir, if you say Avarabba, one will do. If you sing Avas Olam, one will do. Okay? The Chachma is to sing Avarabba and Avas Olam, and then believe me, one will do. You don't sing Avarabba and not Avas Olam, you need 25, and that's not enough. That's what he says over here. I'm stopping now because I think I want to go further later, but this was really I want to teach today. I wanted to teach that our approach to Parnas is, yes, it's all a means towards an end. It's all a means, a way of us bringing into realization his will of having a relationship with us. Every dollar I make is, wow, this is a way of translating his love for me. And obviously that's for a purpose within context of his love to me. Therefore, I'm doing this for a meaningful purpose. The meaning is Ratzon Hashem, whatever I'm doing. Whether it's for I want to live a comfortable life in order to live a constructive life, a meaningful life. I want to be able to daven with Menuchas HaNefesh. I want to be able to give tzedakah. I want to be able to learn. I want to be able, I don't know what, I want to be able to give my children a proper education. They should be, mentioned. There's a lot of good reasons for this. If that's what we're at, so then this begins to make sense. And that's that we're gonna learn inside, but I really felt that it's been 3 weeks now. I got to get to the crux of this. This is what we're looking at. The ribui of tirda for parnasa should make sense if it doesn't take us away from what it's really all about. We get so involved in that, we forget that we're being mishtadel, and parnasa is nothing more than a relationship between God and man. And believe me, God does not need you to have a Porsche or Lamborghini in the garage. That's not his thing. He wants you to live a life that you'll be able to be meaningful, purposeful, raise your children, and help the people around you. Live whatever the values of Torah are. It's called, in my book, it's called Lo'olam Yeh Odom, Dav Zayin HaMensch. Okay, whatever mensch means, it includes all that. Believe me. If Hillel would have listened to me, he said, "What's the ikar of Torah? Zayin HaMensch. V'idach pirusha zil gmor." Okay, that's what I would have answered instead of Hillel. Be a person, and that's what this is about. Okay, guys, I think I have to stop now. I overstepped my welcome. See you guys in 2 weeks, and we will continue this. Please get this copy down, because this is really stuff that has to be seen inside. Okay, bye.
Thank you,
Rabbi.
Thank you.
Easy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you so much.
Daniel, how are you? Bye. Good to see you.
Rob,
Wow.
it's so much easier listening to this as a retiree.
Right. Well, I'm also retired.
Yeah, right.
Was Rav Shlomo Zalman talking about a legal tax shelter or an illegal tax shelter?
No, he was talking about the questions. No, he was talking about something which is shady.
Shady, okay.
You know what it is. Ask the boys of Brooklyn, they'll tell you all about it.
I've heard of them.
You heard of them.
How much is stadless in the 5 towns does one need to be just live as a mensch?
Oh, goodness. You're asking me now to discuss my analysis of the people of the 5 towns. I don't think I do that in public.
You're a baby. You're a baby.
Let's just say, whatever you psychologically need for balance, not including what the neighbors will think,
Upside down.
that would take away 60% of the stuff. You would not care about what people think, but only about what you really need. Your life would be different. And your Moshe is a chachma, do something purposeful with it. Don't impress your neighbors. I remember a friend of mine told me there was this cop, an Irish cop, on the beat, and I think it was Flatbush or Brooklyn. He asked, hey, tell me, are chandeliers a religious artifact by you Jews? Because he says all these houses they have these big chandeliers. So obviously, you get the message. Obviously, that's not dafka what's needed. You figure it out. Big you say, you don't have to impress anybody. You impress yourself and God. That's all. Bye, boys. See you. Excuse me, gentlemen. Good seeing you. Come to bracha v'atzlacha. Bye.